All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Hey there, welcome back into NESN Around, NESN.com's podcast about nothing, but also about everything in the world of sports. That pretty much covers it. I'm NESN.com's Mike Cole. That's NESN.com's Ricky Doyle. We both work for the same company, which is the company hosting this
NESN.com.
video podcast, NESN.com. NESN Around.
It's an offshoot. NESN.
Yeah. It's the summer is officially upon us, especially here in Boston, where it is hotter than hell.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, it's great.
I will take the heat 110% of the time.
Wild thing is I went back to look at last week's real quick to get something, and we were both bundled up basically. So in the course of a week, we've gone from layers.
Last
to,
week sucked.
Yeah.
Last week was very dreary and just depressing, and so I'm glad we're snapping out of that.
Yeah, definitely. And with that comes the start of the sports season, the sports summer season. Which really we're into, which we'll get into as we look at kind of over the past week. But we have champions in both the NHL and the NBA. So it is summer now.
Yeah. Really, this is when we were talking about the baseball season last week or a couple weeks ago, and said essentially it doesn't really kick off until you crown the champion of the NHL and the NBA, and that's when you kind of roll up the sleeves and get in on baseball. So, and no real surprises from an NBA standpoint. No, pretty much what we expected.
We'll get into that. Speaking of what we expected, we do predictions at the end of every show, and then we revisit them at the beginning of the next show to kind of go over how stupid we look. Actually, we didn't do too terribly last week. What was your prediction again? I know what your prediction was, but I already forget the name.
I predicted that the horse that won the Belmont Stakes would win the Belmont Stakes. Taproot.
Sure.
I said I liked his fresh legs.
Yep.
Home track advantage. Everything was pointing towards him, and I don't want
he
to
won.
pick my own one, but toot.
Good job. I said the Penguins would win the Stanley Cup final in 7 games. They did me one better. They won it in 6. Kind of a bummer as somebody who jumped on the Nashville Predators bandwagon very hard.
Yeah.
We weren't really going to talk about that this week, but kind of a terrible way for a championship series to end.
Yeah.
Really bogus call.
Yeah, the bogus call, and also just that series, I mean, as you alluded to, it just smelled of 7 games. It had 7 games written all over it. So I came away from that feeling robbed a little bit.
Yeah, right.
We should have had it.
It was oh, wow. And it just happened so quickly. It's oh, this is over.
Yeah.
Speaking of something that probably should have ended a little quicker than it did, really just, last year I think we were spoiled when it came to the NBA Finals. A great 7-game series with a really good storyline. The Warriors blowing the 3-1 lead.
Yep.
You had the Draymond Green suspension. Just a lot of stuff going on. This year, not so much. The Warriors completed the NBA Finals on Monday night convincingly for the most part. 5-game win, winning in Game 5, 129-120 at home. Really, actually, Game 5 might have been the best game of the series, in terms of being close. The Cavs gave a push in the second half, just didn't have enough. I don't know where exactly you want to go with this. I think the big thing that stood out to me, on Monday night was that just how nothing annoys me more in this whole regard than the whole idea of the Warriors being. I mean, they were expected to win. I'm not going to give them more credit than they deserve. It's they get credit for being the best collection of basketball talent we've seen in a long time. But I don't necessarily give them Don't sit here and try to tell me they went through adversity or it's just I get it. It's the end of the season and there's this encapsulation of it and the euphoria, but it felt almost too forced. It's this was a foregone conclusion, right?
This was the easiest championship that I can recall in any sport.
They won 15 out of 16 games in the playoffs, including 4 of 5 against arguably the best player of all time.
It date back to the beginning of the regular season, even how easy, just everything was smooth sailing. There were, I guess, early in the season there maybe were some hiccups when you start. There were some rumblings every now and then. Are they better? Were they better without Durant? Which is just even more bogus in hindsight.
Right.
But those storylines, even at the time, felt forced. It was we have to come up with some sort of adversity or something other than this team kicking the ever-living crap out of everybody to make it somewhat interesting.
Right.
And frankly, it wasn't there. I mean, the playoffs proved that more than anything. even for Durant especially. I mean, I was seeing how good he is, but it looks just so easy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it was like
so fluid. Everything that this team has done, and you keep waiting maybe for the hiccup, and it just never really came.
The thing that annoyed me, I don't even know if annoy is the right word, but just watching the culmination of that game, the culmination of the series, the season, the culmination of Durant's quest for a title.
Yeah.
It just felt like he, his mom, his teammates, everybody was trying to make it out to something bigger. Like it was this, he finally conquered the beast. And it's like, you joined one of the best teams in history, and you're one of the best players in like, it just, I don't know, it was just weird to watch. It just felt weird.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Not very fulfilling, I guess.
But they tried to make it seem like it was the most fulfilling thing he's ever done.
Yeah.
Like his mom, like hugging him and like saying, you did it. It's like, well, yeah, I would hope you did it. It would have been really, he would have lost more by not ever winning a title with this team than he did by winning one.
But now,
than he gained by winning one.
What's starting to annoy me a little bit about this too is now we're kind of going so far in the other direction of like, it's to the point where people are complaining about how good they are. Like we're even kind of doing a little bit right now, as if they did something wrong building this team. And you look and we want to talk about all these super teams, but I mean the way that they did it was pretty natural. I mean, just it wasn't that long ago that the Warriors were a laughingstock.
Yeah.
I mean, I look back to like how I used to view the Warriors when I was a kid, and like I would just completely. They were the team that when you were like going through and playing NBA, whatever, like you're playing whatever game it is, you would just like not even. You would consider taking the Warriors so that you could build them back up.
Or
like
you just wanted to get a quick game and win by 50.
Yeah, like so they were like the go-to franchise for that. And then obviously, they nailed these draft picks and then bringing in Durant. I mean, it's
they did
it the right way.
Well, for the most part, I think the issue is like. Yeah, they did it the right way, and they would have been fine. Like they would have been in the NBA Finals even if they hadn't signed Durant.
Right.
But I totally understand why people might be annoyed by the fact that they went out and signed Durant, and that Durant left the team that beat him and then wins an NBA title a year later. It's just I don't know.
It sucks. I mean, it sucks as a fan who wants to see some sort of parity, but at the same time, it's like I hate the general like the annoyance of people to the point where they're like shaking their fists at the heavens and saying it's like unfair that we're building these super teams. It's like, well, not to get all like existentialist on you, but like just do something about it. Don't like wallow in your self-pity, you know what I mean? Like
and yeah, I guess we kind of disagree here because like there's not a whole lot you can do even in like we've gotten to a point of no return, I think, with these two teams where it's like there is literally nothing you can do to get to that point.
I think so, but I mean, we've seen weird things happen in the span of like a year or two. Like, I feel like right now it's impossible to come up with an argument as to why this team's not going to be in the finals for the next 3-4 years, whatever. Because all these guys are like 29 and younger.
Right.
But at the same time, like, would I be shocked if something unforeseen happens that shifts the balance of power a little bit quicker than maybe we anticipate? No. I mean, I just think that the window could shut a lot quicker than maybe we're envisioning at this point.
I guess we just see it differently. I think that's the case in the East. I think.
Well, maybe at least that's my hope.
Right? I think that this Warriors team is in the finals for the next 5 years. I do.
It's hard to make an argument against it right now.
Maybe the Spurs.
I'm banking on, like I said, something. My only issue really would be if now everybody kind of is resigned to that fact, like organization, like teams across the NBA are resigned to that fact so much so that they're just building for 3, 4, 5 years down the road, and that there's really no competition whatsoever. I mean, I think ultimately if you see teams do that, maybe it balances out at the end of the day because 4, 5, 6 years from now we could have a level of parity that's unprecedented in the league,
right? Because
everybody's building towards that one opportunity. But if that is the case, these next 3, 4, 5 years, however long the window is, it's gonna suck. This is a storm you gotta weather a little bit. But
the best chance I think of knocking them out in the next 4 or 5 years is going to be the Lakers when LeBron leaves Cleveland and signs with the Lakers, which rumors already kind of swirling that he's got maybe one more year in Cleveland and he's out going to the West Coast. Lakers seem like the most likely destination if that happens. Getting a little ahead of ourselves. One thing I did want to talk about is I was laying in bed last night and thinking about it. It's like I was like, oh my God, like LeBron's almost a sympathetic character in this whole thing. And it's like, that's not right.
No.
Like that shouldn't be the case. But you kind of have to fight that urge to make him sympathetic because, you know, as we said last week, he's the one who started this whole thing. But it's hard not to watch that game, especially Monday night, and be like, this guy is playing his ass off, giving it all he's got, and it's just not enough.
You're right, but in classic LeBron fashion.
And that's exactly what I was going to say.
You just mentioned that Lakers rumor, and the fact
right.
that like that something like that is out there is that's so LeBron. You
right.
know what I mean? Like you're finally coming around and viewing him as that sympathetic character.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, but we also think that he might jump ship from Cleveland and go to the Lakers in a year.
Not only is the body still warm, it was still alive before we started hearing those rumors. Like these rumors are coming out in the middle of the NBA Finals. Like that's just insane.
And I wasn't a huge fan of his post-game press conference
that's,
at all.
Ricky, that's what I was going to say. Is I felt this way until I woke up and saw what he said in his post-game press conference.
There was a lot of I personally left it all on the court. It was
he just can't help himself.
And he's smarter than that. You know what I mean? It's not like one of these things where you think maybe it's lost in translation. He's not really pumping his own tires. This is a smart dude. You know what I mean? He's built his own brand as good as anybody outside of Michael Jordan. So like, everything is very methodical with him and very well thought out. So I have no doubts that when he makes a comment like that, it's basically just to highlight his performance in the finals versus everybody else.
You have to be, you have to say something.
And he has a point.
You have to be a real knucklehead to like somehow make this about you in that moment. Like if he just gone to the podium and be like, whatever, I'm not going to say anything controversial. Yeah. It just blows right over and we talk about the Warriors for the next few days. The one thing I do want to talk about is that maybe we're going to hear a lot of bad takes coming out of the NBA Finals and, you know, in the next few weeks leading up to the draft. Maybe no worse take than LeBron James' own opinion that he's never played on a super team.
Yeah,
which is
bogus.
So dumb. Like,
absolutely, yeah.
You know, somebody asked him, it's like, I'm surprised he didn't cut the guy off. It's just the way he answered the question. But like, you know, basically the guy asked, what do you think about super teams? You know, just kind of talking that. He's like, well, I don't think I've ever done. Like, they threw a goddamn carnival for these guys when they signed in Miami. Yeah. And that was all. And like, the thing about super teams, I think we need like a different word because like the Warriors are
word's starting to piss me off.
Well, it is, yes. You use anything too often. But like the Warriors are a super team, but like most of that is organic, kind of like you talked about. That Heat team was pre-orchestrated a while before they all went to Miami, and he did it in just a vicious manner of just stabbing the Cavs in the back. How quickly they forget. Every time I start to feel something about LeBron where I'm, like I said, maybe he's sympathetic. He just does something or says something that just makes you go, nope, I'm back.
Yeah, I went back and read the Dan Gilbert letter that he wrote to Cavs fans right after he left town, and it just, I like forgot how much visceral was in that letter. Of just, like, it was just pure like, I'm gonna sit down on my computer and just type a bunch of crap because like I just got to get this off my chest. It's awesome, but that speaks to like how just over the top that whole exit was. And then, like you said, the fact that he brushed that reporter off after last night of the question about the super teams. It's just like, I don't have time for this sort of deal. Which clearly had time when you were demanding you're going to win not one, not two,
well, and that's the other
three,
thing too, is they were so cocky about it. It's like if he had just said
pyrotechnics.
If he had just admitted it in on Monday night, it was like, it's something that we've tried. Maybe it didn't necessarily work out. It doesn't always work out. It's not the one thing that you have to do to build a champion. It kind of is a combination of all that. It's just a little bit of humility in a spot where you've already been humbled so greatly would have gone a long way.
Well, that's the thing. The lack of humility is because he's the best player on the planet. He knows he's the best player on the planet. And so you would just, and I think everybody would agree that even if you think maybe Durant is up there with him or Curry's up there with him, whatever, you could agree that he's one of the best players on the planet. And it's the fact that he didn't show that humility and he did kind of pump his own tires a little bit. I don't know. It left a bad taste in my mouth, and then it just like we started off by saying, it's just classic LeBron in the sense that you wanna. I know I've come around on him several times, and then something happens where it's like, well, now I know I didn't like him in the first place.
Another NBA Finals trip for him, another loss. Does this affect his legacy at all negatively, or does it maybe even affect it positively? Like, is it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't think it should have a negative impact.
No,
I know,
I agree.
but I know that argument's out there. It's
Yeah.
being floated around. Immediately the whole thing with this is you point to the records. Michael Jordan was 6-0 in the finals as opposed to 3-6. 3-6. And the way I look at it is, wouldn't you rather go to the finals more times than
You would think so.
Isn't the idea to get to the finals as much as possible? Because this is the whole
if you're a
argument
Tom
with
Brady.
Well, this goes back to the Tom Brady, Joe Montana argument. Would you rather be perfect in 4 Super Bowls or, go to however many he ends up going to at the end of the day and have a few blemishes on your record? I'd rather go there. I mean, I don't know about you, and I think that I would view that more favorably. The fact that you're not perfect, that's all right. You still got there.
It is weird, though, that it does. I could see sort of where people are coming from. But that's a really weird thing for it to go against you in the long run, where it's like, if you get there, you're one of the 2 best teams in all of basketball, but not being that one team kind of hurt. You're right. There is something impressive about getting there, but there is something to be said for you've been a lot of times and you haven't won. I'm not saying I don't know. It's just tough. And again, coming out of the Eastern Conference, that's why I think it's going to be fascinating. If he does end up in the West, that's a new path for him to kind of try to get through. That's something. If I was arguing against LeBron, I would point at that. It's like you did it through the East, and it's like the East has not been nearly as tough as the West for the last 10 to 15 years. So I don't know. It's complicated.
Yeah, but the way I look at it is immediately the thing that jumps to people's minds like, well, Jordan never would have folded under the pressure like this. And it's like, well, maybe he would have a few losses if he did go to the finals 9 times as opposed to 6. You know what I mean?
I think that the big thing is, and it's not fair necessarily to LeBron, is there was no questioning that Jordan was the best during that time. There is a question as to whether LeBron is. And, maybe there is a little bit more parity in terms of the top-end talent now in the NBA than there was in the 90s. We all like to romanticize the 90s, but it was Jordan and everybody else. Now it's LeBron, Durant, Curry. And they just happen to all be on the same team. So
it's very convenient for the
maybe Jordan's record wouldn't have been as impressive if he ran up against a team with Barkley, Anthony Hardaway, and Shaq. So I don't know. It's like I said, it's complicated. One more thing. Like I said, I think the Warriors are here for the next 5 years. Good, bad. What do you think? I'm trying to wrap my head around. I think ultimately this is good for the league.
I think it is.
It sucks that that's the case, but I do think that this is better than
there's
Raptors.
I think
Spurs.
there's more interest in seeing what this team can accomplish. How good can they be? How long can they go on this run? As opposed to having, listen, the NBA wasn't the model of parity to begin with.
Right. It never has been. That was
for a while.
Bob Ryan in the Globe wrote that or tweeted that earlier this week.
And at least this team has that element of flash, I guess. They're fun to watch. This is. This isn't the San Antonio Spurs where they were winning all the time, but they're also just putting you right to sleep. Nobody wanted to see that in the finals. If we had a finals with San Antonio and Cleveland, this would have sucked.
Yeah.
It would have sucked to the heavens.
So
I don't know. I think ultimately it's good, not only in the short term, but like I said, if all these teams start, have their sights set on 4 or 5 years from now, I think when you get to that point, it's going to be interesting because at that point, you could have half the league contending for a title as opposed to, now it's one team, but even before that, it was 3-4 teams legitimately had a chance to win it every year. So, I don't know. I like the idea of having the one team that everybody's gunning for, too. I think it's similar with, kind of the Patriots in the NFL, and that's worked out pretty well for them. So
yeah, it makes sense. If they're going to be sticking around, you might as well, try to get some historical significance out of it. So. All right, let's talk a little boxing, I guess.
Let's just talk
natural
about
transition.
Kicking the crap out of each other.
So,
this could be one-sided as well. So
yeah, it sounds like August 26th, Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor are going to do the damn thing.
Yeah,
it sounds like you read between the lines, a lot of permits being pulled and a lot of legwork being done behind the scenes.
The amount of paperwork is absolutely absurd.
It makes sense. You got a lot of moving parts here.
It's there's one little nugget that comes out every day. It seems like,
right.
It's I got to file for this license. with this guy.
Right.
And then that guy's going to go bring it to that guy, and he's going to get a license. Then I'm going to bring it back to Dana White, and Dana White's going to tell me to go screw, and then I'm going to go over here and talk to this guy, and that guy's going to say, I don't know if we're going to do it. Then we're going to go over here, we're going to get this license.
Not to mention you're juggling hundreds of millions of dollars all at the same time.
The financial particulars, this isn't, figuring out a tab.
I mean, it got to the point where
Fridays.
on Monday we're looking at like the Java Nevada State Gaming or Nevada State Athletic Commission website, like their regular old little calendar of events, and it's got August 26th Mayweather promotions. That's when people started to kind of run with it. There was a report out even Monday night, I think, that these guys have agreed to a deal. Like, this thing is going to happen.
Yeah.
I think August 26th is definitely going to be the day that this happens. Again, this is not official, but it looks like it's going to happen.
And that's coming quick.
It is.
This is a lot.
Right.
Like, that was the one thing that I thought of when I heard this date. I'm like, that's a lot sooner than I anticipated.
Well, they wanted to do September 16th, but then there was the other fight.
Yeah.
October.
So maybe this is to kind of strike while the iron's hot, get ahead of that.
Well, it makes
fight.
you wonder if there's going to be another fight after this one too. I don't know if that's something that people are talking about or not, or I just came up with that on my own. But maybe they're trying to set up a series. I think we just talk about dominance in the Warriors and the NBA. I think I haven't found anybody outside of Ireland who thinks that Conor McGregor has even a puncher's chance in this fight against Floyd Mayweather. So I thought you came up had a good question earlier, like. What's the best case scenario for this thing from a fan's perspective? Like, you're into this a little bit more than I am, but as a casual fan of both UFC, maybe not as much UFC, but definitely boxing. Like, if boxing is good, I think that's good for sports.
Yeah.
What's the best case scenario here for the casual fan?
Well, that's the thing is, like, everybody, even the biggest optimist would tell you that this fight is probably going to be just a pile of garbage at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, I think that is a pretty fair on this. Even the people that come out and say like McGregor has a puncher's chance, it feels very forced. Like, I don't know if they actually believe it, if they're just kind of saying it to be a contrarian.
If Floyd's on the ground,
yeah.
So if this
I don't
turns
know.
into a UFC match,
and the
then
thing with McGregor too, it's like the guy has lost in his own realm. You know what I mean? This isn't like some unstoppable force, as good as he might be.
Yeah, he's going to take on a guy who has never lost in the sport that he specializes in.
This isn't exactly not fighting some scrub down at the local gym. Now, as far as the best case scenario, really all this is just two very rich guys are about to become a lot more richer. And the entire build, like the pizzazz with this whole fight, it's all in the build-up. I mean, this is going to be basically a social media-driven fight.
Exactly what I was going to say.
And in some ways, it's kind of transformative. I don't think we've ever, we haven't never seen anything like this. So it'll be interesting to see how it all works out. But like, really, this is no different than like a WWE pay-per-view.
Ricky,
because you already have an idea as to what the outcome's going to be. That Mayweather's going to just pick him apart for however many rounds he chooses and then knock him out. So really, this is the entertainment value lies in the build-up, and that's it.
It's one of those things where we clearly don't go over our answers to these questions beforehand, because that's exactly what I was going to say. I agree. Like, it's the press conference, it's the announcement, it's the weigh-in.
And I'm okay with that, because I think that's going to be incredibly entertaining.
And it's all the way up until that Saturday night when they get in the ring and touch gloves.
Yep.
It's all the way up to that. Like, if the fan man could come in and like crash into the ring or something. Like, it's going to be the social media gifable moments that you're looking for. It's going to be, is Floyd going to throw
the small quotes, dissecting every little like tweet.
Right.
Somebody's going to tweet out a bunch of emojis about God knows what. Right. We're going to dissect that 90 different ways.
Maybe Conor McGregor throws a water ball at somebody. Yeah. There's a meltdown. You get Dana White involved. There's a lot of big personalities here. You're going to be weighing in from coast to coast with legends in each sport. Like, there's a lot of that. It's all in the build-up here. And that's how you make a ton of money, too. Because by the end of it...
Red carpet events. Like, it's like, hey, thanks for coming to this gala. You got a nice suit on. Hey, what do you think of Mayweather-McGregor?
Yeah, right. And like,
I have you.
And so, like, the lead-up to this is that Saturday afternoon, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people, maybe even millions of people across the country who are like, I know that McGregor probably doesn't have a very good chance in this fight, but damn it, the last 2 months were really exciting, really entertaining. So I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So they're going to make a ton of money. It's going to be a horrible fight. It's going to be just like Mayweather-Pacquiao, but turned up to 11.
And storylines and anticipation are going to far outweigh the actual product. And like I said, that's very WWE-esque as well. So I think that's a fair comparison to make. And as far as like the best case scenario from a fight standpoint, Like, I don't think any of it matters for all of the reasons we just outlined. But I guess it would be McGregor just holding his own for a reasonable amount of time.
If McGregor gets like a third round like knockdown or something, like if he gets him with like just catching him flush with one punch, it really plants like even the slightest seed of doubt.
It's like we got to witness something weird here. Like,
right.
Are we about to get wild?
Right. And I mean, he'd probably just, then Mayweather goes into his shell for the next 8 rounds and holds on.
But this whole thing is incredibly predictable in the sense that I can already see the tweets coming out mid-fight about not even mid-fight because this might not last very long. But I think back to the Pacquiao fight, the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, and how everybody turned on that so quickly. Yeah. And that's just going to happen here. And it's going to be like, well, at the end of the day, you're going to be like, well, why did I spend all my money on that?
One of the hopes, too, is that, McGregor just goes in there flailing and just...
Hopefully he does something crazy.
Yeah, right.
Maybe that's the best case scenario, is him, going for a takedown.
Yeah,
or
right.
Something that,
He just, you want to talk about wrestling, outrageous. Just a total heel turn. He turns it. Yeah. He's like, I don't care. I'm going to lose this. I'm just going to turn this into... He goes for the takedown early and just tries to put him in, an arm bar or something.
Yeah.
Breaks his arm off. Yeah, so it'll be... I don't know. I keep going back and forth whether I'm going to actually order it. I probably will at some point.
I will, just because it's one of those things where you feel like you said, you get to that, you're going to get to the day of and be like, well, I just invested so much time in this crap when I probably shouldn't have, so I might as well get to see what this is all about.
Yep. All right, let's move on. Hopefully, our producer, Marc, has our next thing teed up. We're going to the viral breakdown again. We haven't done this. Yeah, he's got it. All right. We haven't done this in a while. I guess this happened over the weekend, I think Sunday maybe, at a Memphis Redbirds game. They're the AAA affiliate of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Is there anything better than minor league promotions?
No, minor league baseball.
It's up there in my
it might be one
rankings of life.
It might be one of the best things in sports continuously. This kid, they had an icy chugging contest. I guess the idea is just to chug the most amount of icy in a timed manner. It looked like there was a countdown clock. We'll get to it. I don't know if Marc is ready to roll.
6.
Here we go.
5.
This kid is just going to town here.
He's gonna form first.
He's getting his neck into it.
Well, he's favoring the back early.
All right, let's
and then the predictable thing happens.
Yeah.
Oh!
Let's see.
Oh, the Cardinals.
We're trying to teach these kids to grow up and become, rocket scientists. And yet we're polluting their brains with that.
Not everybody is destined for rocket science. And that's clearly, that is a hard lesson to learn.
Pure disgust.
And that's the thing with the icy too.
It's child abuse.
It doesn't matter how many of you drink. You still think that the next one you drink, you can drink it fast and not get the brain freeze. I don't know. It is kind of like child abuse.
You give this kid a gallon of milk next, tell him to chug that, and be yakking up on the pitcher's mound.
We're gonna have an icy chugging contest. We're gonna have children do it. It's like, what do you think's gonna happen? They're gonna get brain freezes.
The MMA for the 12-year-old MMA fighter, like a 24-year-old opponent.
Yeah. So that was that. That poor kid. Actually, can we go, Marc? Can you throw back up one more time?
It's very fitting that you
this
had this shirt on.
All right, so look what this kid's wearing here. He's wearing the backwards hat. He's got the red hair.
All right, we're going to stop.
Larger face, a circular head.
I thought he kept it down.
Backwards hat. Looks a lot like somebody we've seen before, huh?
What do you think,
especially in a baseball setting. Marc, if you want to cut back here. Where am I going over here? Kind of looks like Ham from...
You know what? That's the first thing I thought of when I watched that video.
I did too, yeah.
And then the fact that you happen to just randomly wear that shirt. This wasn't...
I had this. This was like
this wasn't planned out. You just
clean shirt. No, yeah. I mean, once I realized that this was the shirt I brought today, I was like, maybe we should do it. And I was like, oh, it kind of looks like. But that was Ricky. This was the first thing I thought of when I saw it. I was like, this kid looks just like Ham from The Sandlot.
I like the very underrated too. It seemed to be a Hawaiian theme. It's a lot of Hawaiian shirts. So. Yeah. That just adds another layer to the promotion. I think I want to go big on Hawaiian shirts this summer. I've been talking a big game about that.
I do like Hawaiian shirts. You still wear them every once in a while. Yeah, and they're comfortable too.
Love the festivity of it all.
Thanks to the Memphis Redbirds for doing that because that was cool. Also, they let us use the video, so that was nice of them as well.
Well, we were gonna do our own, but then
we have
to go back to work after.
We got to start doing this is poor planning on our part, and maybe we'll take this on the road as the summer goes on. We'll start doing some things.
We'll have our Hawaiian shirts on.
That's a good point. Speaking of eating contests, Maybe something we do down the road as well. We do
Yeah.
our own little eating contest. If you were a competitive eater, Ricky, what would you specialize in? I don't really. I should have looked it up. I'm not even sure what they do. Like I kind of just will make up my own eating contest. But why don't you go ahead?
I would say one food that I'm going to say mac and cheese.
Do they have mac and cheese eating contests?
I mean, I'll do a little.
Yikes.
That could be dangerous.
Yeah,
It could be
pretty
dangerous,
gross.
but I'm just thinking. I'm trying to think of a food that I can consume in bulk, and I think mac and cheese is one where I can probably consume a lot of mac and cheese. Chicken nuggets too.
Chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets are quick, so you can
I was
you get
thinking-
them on the fly.
yeah.
You start popping some nugs.
That's a good one too.
You're
Yeah,
good.
like I could eat. I mean, they give you like what, the 20 piece at McDonald's.
Yeah.
I probably could eat like if I needed to.
yeah, in a
3 of
competitive
those at
landscape.
least. Yeah. I mean, like that's the thing. It's like I'd be more of an endurance eater. Like I would be a good food marathoner as opposed to a food sprinter. Like I could eat,
You're
200 of those nuggets.
You're a race walker,
But it's gonna take me 4 hours as opposed to 20 minutes. Yeah, I put back a lot of chicken. I like chicken. The thing is, I'm not a very good chicken wing eater. Like chicken wings was my first instinct here to go with that. But like, I'm not good at cleaning off the bone. I waste so much chicken when I eat wings.
Yeah, I'm with you.
When I eat bone-in wings. Now we're talking if there's a boneless chicken wing contest out there, I'm in. The hanger.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's why the nuggets.
Amherst,
I
give
feel
me
like
that.
I'd thrive in the nuggets.
Right.
Circuit.
That's
I'm
what
with you.
always been
I'm
my
not great
thing.
with especially when it comes to speed.
Yeah.
I'm not great speed-wise when it comes to the wing game. So
I could probably eat. See, again, like, it's tough to like look at it in a time period, but
I also think I could eat a boatload of steak tips.
yeah, like that's the thing too. Like I could sit there and eat, a few steaks in a sitting maybe, but that's not really like competitive eating. I just like steak.
I would certainly have to take a look at the rule book beforehand.
Cereal,
before
I could
committing.
probably get down with, but I think I could do some damage on a hot dog contest too. I think
Yeah.
I like hot dogs. They're good, and they're easy to eat. They are easy to eat. It's a good thing to.
I'll be
have.
honest with you. I gotta know the dog in advance. Like, are we talking Fenway Franks? I feel like
don't
Fenway
like
Franks are very easy to digest. I
really
a
like
surplus of
the
those.
Nathan's ones that they eat on the 4th of July. You ever have those?
Yeah,
Those are
they're
good.
but
They're
I don't know if
They're tasty too.
Yeah, I don't think I could handle a lot of them though.
You get the skinny ones, not the fat ones.
But
That's the thing. You get like the Hebrew National hot dogs. Those are things like sausages. So that's our hot dog talk for the week. Do you have any predictions this week before we get out of here?
Let's see. I'm gonna say that an MLB manager is gonna get fired here real
Okay.
soon. Kind of waiting for it. I don't know who the prime candidate would be. Maybe I look at like a Clint Hurdle, like
Yeah.
somebody who's underachieving. Pirates have underachieved to this point. Maybe Brad Osmus, somebody of that ilk. I don't know. I don't want to pigeonhole myself in a name, so I'm just gonna leave it open ended. Somebody's got to get canned though. Let's spice things up. Now that we're back in the baseball season, I felt like it had to be baseball centric. And
Yeah, sure. I'm playing the law of averages. I'm going. Aaron Judge is going to go on a slump, which is a very arbitrary thing to say, but we got Rob Parker coming out here saying that Aaron Judge is one of the 5 best sluggers of all time. Which, first of all, his list was ridiculous. His list included it was Judge, Darryl Strawberry, Mark McGuire, Barry Bonds,
A-Rod.
and A-Rod, which is a terrible list of sluggers. Darryl Strawberry, I mean, geez. So I think there's a slump coming. It just feels like a natural ebb and flow. Baseball is a humbling game. We got everybody talking about how Aaron Judge is the next Mickey Mantle all of a sudden or something.
Yep.
Next Barry Bonds. I don't see it. I think a big slump's coming. Pitchers are going to have to figure it out at some point.
Yeah, he's that type of player too. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, you could see him going through a stretch where he's 0 for 30
Right.
with 24 strikeouts. He's got a big
enormous
swing.
strike zone.
You start, there's some swing and miss to his game.
Yep.
So it's gonna. I'm with you. I think it's coming at some point. Whether it happens this week, who knows? But pitchers are gonna make those adjustments. They're
Also,
gonna bode well for Mr. Judge.
Yeah, I didn't really think of it once, so that was on the fly. So that's a bad prediction on my part, but we'll see.
It could happen. That was a bomb hit the other day. That was Sunday.
495 feet. The farthest home run in the StatCast era. Strong man. Lifts a lot of weights. That's it. Unless you got anything else.
No.
right.
I got some competitive eating to train for.
Yeah, right. Good call. And I got to go play some Chippo. Messing around. That's been our podcast. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week.